Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, Coach Jay, how are we doing on this Monday of very light action in the equities? You're
I am
muted,
muted.
Coach.
Uh, yeah, very, very
Yes,
quiet action today. Quiet as muted microphone. Um,
you took it from me.
yeah. Uh, but not a bad day overall. Welcome back to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. You may want to we may talk about markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity. We want to see how we can take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay, been a top step performance coach since June of 2023, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since April of 2023. I've been involved in the futures industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some experience, some knowledge, and hopefully help you become a better trader.
Some stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. And let's get ahead of it. Uh, We are aware of reports of an issue on the Topstep X platform seem to be affecting the NASDAQ charts. Our team is currently looking into these reports. We'll share updates as soon as we have information on those. We don't have anything right now, but the team is looking into what the issue was. Looked like some of the data maybe wasn't loading properly on uh, on Topstep X for the NASDAQ. When I checked, it looked like micro NASDAQ was working fine. It was just the NASDAQ charts, but the team is looking into that and will send out an update when available.
All right.
Let's take a look at the news. It was a pretty quiet day as far as planned numbers go, Coach Paul. We really didn't have anything. U.S. Fed inflation expectations came in at 3.73%. We know that heavy news week later in the week. We have PPI Wednesday, CPI on Thursday, and then Michigan sentiment on Friday. So pretty quiet day as far as news goes. Anything you have to report on the news?
Boy, I was looking for news. No.
S- Somebody tweet something.
Yeah, no, PPI. Um, but maybe some political unrest in France with but other than that, nothing much, and the market sure reflected it.
Pretty quiet day here for sure. But that's just to start the week. We know that we have some potential volatility inducing events coming up soon. Uh, so stay aware of what the market is doing. Let's take a look at the quote board. There are 35 different markets we can trade with top step accounts, and today to the downside. Not a whole lot to the downside. We had cattle down 0.1%. Uh, uh, Lean hogs down 0.81%. We haven't looked at a lean hogs chart in a long time. Maybe it's because cattle's been
Yeah.
taking everyone's attention. But hogs up at the highs of the year right now, testing the highs of the year. Wonder if Coach Hoop has any information on that. And then we have micro Ethereum down 1.05% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. To the upside, we had natural gas up 1.38%, heating oil up 1.47%, and the Nikkei, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, up 2.42%. To round out our big four, we had crude oil up 0.95%, S&P up 0.27%, gold making new all-time highs up 0.62%, and the Nasdaq up a half a percent. But if you look at the Nasdaq chart, it really looks like we didn't do anything. But let's take a look. Let's take a look at the S&P, Coach Paul, on the daily. We made a new all-time high Friday, 65.4175. What are we seeing on the daily in the S&P?
Um, we're seeing balance. Inside day from Friday's sell off after making record highs, holding the 20-day moving average still above the 50. Um, Looks like we're in neutral territory until we get some information on PPI and CPI, which I think are going to be even bigger than normal for the fact that um, with the friction between the Fed and the executive. Um, there's going to be a lot of pressure to make a rate this next rate decision based off of this. So I don't think we're going to do much in front of those numbers, and today's action reflected that.
It did. Let's go down to a shorter time frame chart. Let's take a look at a 30-minute. I have this on regular trading hours, but I'm going to switch it over to extended trading hours. And a lot of overlap, like you said, Coach Paul. We look at so one of the things Anne Marie and I were talking about yesterday on the market kickoff was the NFP candle. And we pretty much, closed right near the low of that candle. Didn't see a lot of price acceptance through this candle, up through 65.20, which is that 50% area. Just a lot of balance. How many different ways can we say balance? Uh,
Many.
chop, balance, range, indecision, accumulation. I'm at five right now. I'm trying to think of how many others there are. But the market just didn't go anywhere today. Now, does that mean that there weren't opportunities to trade? There were, but I think today is a day where you have to frame what those opportunities look like. If you were looking for breakout trades, you weren't getting them today. But if you identified the extremes of the range, the price that I marked down here, 64.90 is this high. That's that first 30-minute open, right? We know we look at that a lot. And from that point, we had some urgency early, Coach Paul, but we got back
Yeah.
into this NFP candle and found balance. So today was a day of if you wanted to take trades in the equities, identifying those extremes, maybe interacting at the extremes and being patient through the other side of the range. If you were very active on a day like today, I could imagine a ton of traders getting chopped up in a range like this.
Yes. And well, interesting. We did have urgency last night. We popped in the next half an hour. Really, that was 80% of the range for the day. Um, so, um, but interesting. It stayed underneath the 50% of the NFP candle and not convinced buyers. Um, and still remains that way. Um,
Just
really be careful not to overanalyze it.
Yeah, seriously. I'm going down to a shorter time frame chart, and it's the same thing. Balance. When I identify a day like this, look at how flat this VWAP is. It tells me I took two trades today, both to the short side in the Nasdaq, and I went outside because these are days where I'm saying traders may get chopped up. I am traders in that sentence, Coach Ball, and I would get
Mhm.
chopped up on a day like this today. Just trying to be overactive, right? Where we can't force the market to do anything. Switching over to the Nasdaq, and it's very much the same story, right? Where this is balanced. Maybe the Nasdaq had a wider range, and on days like today, I heard some traders say, "Hey, you know what? If we're going to be range bound, I'd rather trade the Nasdaq than the S&P because at least point wise, there's more meat on the bone, maybe." But you know, this was some days our job is not to lose money or not to make money. It's to mitigate risk and not lose so much. And I think that was that type of day for me today. Uh, do what I can to not stare down the same prices all day.
Yeah. Matter of fact, after the first hour, I was kind of done, and really didn't look back. At least at the indices.
Absolutely. Protect capital on a day like today. Let's take a look at the Russell and the NASDAQ. Sorry, the Russell and the Dow, because we do say when the other equities are range bound, right? The Russell and the Dow may be presenting cleaner opportunities. If we look at the daily on the Russell, same story, inside day from NFP. I think all of these markets are going to wait for the inflation data to come out, but the Russell presented a pretty nice trade uh, right off the open. Um, Pretty nice opening range short, right? Where this was an aggressive sell early. And then we went to range bound market as well, but maybe some more opportunity here in the Russell than we got in the Nasdaq and the S&P. take a quick
Oh,
look. Go ahead, Coach Paul.
oh, it ended up basically unchanged. I couldn't even say violently unchanged,
No.
just non-violently unchanged.
Yep. Here, W pattern in the Dow as well. Heather says, hit the like button. I agree, Heather. And
Yeah.
Ali wants to know, or Ali wants to know, when does the inflation data come out? Inflation data comes out starting Wednesday. Wednesday, we have PPI, probably the one that the Fed pays more attention to. Um, and I think PCE is the one the Fed really pays attention to. PPI and then CPI. And JD mentioned, they flipped them this week. Normally CPI comes out first, then PPI. We were talking on Topstep TV about a month ago that probably made sense for the PPI data to come out first, um, but he switched it. So
Oh,
if that's not influence,
they've
I don't
done
know.
that a few times, by the way. That isn't
Yeah.
the first time.
Okay.
S um, I remember CPI always coming out first,
Yeah. Yeah. CPI is
but
usually first, but we're getting PPI first this week. All right. Let's switch over to gold. Taking a look at the daily in gold. What are we seeing here? New all-time highs, 36.85.70 new all-time high in gold. And man, find a place to buy it, Coach Paul.
and that came in the US, interestingly. It really didn't do much until, US but around, 6 o'clock in the morning, New York time, where it picked up.
Yep.
So, onward and upward, there's nothing that I wanna get in the way of this rally. So, last night, we actually gapped lower on the open,
Yes, we did. Taking a look at last night's open.
but once again, coach, there's that flat VWAP last night. Let that be a warning sign. What does that mean, a flat VWAP? Well,
Volume is very comfortable trading these prices.
there's equal volume. There's no disadvantage, but as soon as we left there, left that opening range, VWAP started turning up. Now, um, even if we just put that V with to when we closed above, right? There it is. Now, what really got me, but the thing I want to really highlight in this, when we see a flat VWAP, we're in a you know a huge bull run. Understand that. What's happening? Nothing's changed on the downside when we gapped lower. So there was some selling, and where did they get? They sold the low in the first half an hour. We came back and tested it later, and without much volume. Another thing to note is when we closed above new highs of the night, it's a J trade now on the half an hour. That exhaustion came on the opening half an hour. There was no follow through selling, no follow through volume. And you look at how hard it rallied when we closed above that. That was the biggest range of the night. And we continued. So picture that and understand not only it's the chart, but understand what the underlying um, things that are going on in that chart. And that's almost should be in the encyclopedia of don't fade the gap or fade that gap. I'm sorry, but
Yeah,
it surely took a lot of patience. I missed it because I was asleep.
same here.
Um,
So I was doing the market kickoff with Anne Marie yesterday, and we were talking about, what is this range that I have marked out here? Like, let me go back to a daily. Oh, okay. So we had this little sell-off candle. The high of that candle in gold was 36.21, 36.22. And when we came back yesterday. Emery made a good point, right? We were talking about we were talking about A plus setups, and is there a setup that you're looking for that you can say, hey, 1, 2, 3 checks out, and I'm taking this trade. And one of the things I mentioned, Coach Paul, was that if we're in a range bound market, I can't give a letter grade to a setup better than a B for me, right? Because I'm not a great range bound trader. But if we think about what gold is doing and how often we've seen flat VWAP mean range bound markets, and we think about what gold is doing right now, and like you say all the time, eliminate one side of the market where am I looking to sell gold? I'm not. But when I see this flat VWAP, that may be, and it clearly is, it plays out in this case, the opportunity to find some longs somewhere near the low of this range with a reasonable risk. Could gold have broken down? It could have. Uh, well, on this rejection of these lows with no volume selling it, you know, if someone was to buy down here in the lower extreme of this range and not take profits at the highs, I think it makes sense when we look at the higher time frame picture. Of course, when we wait for that candle close, then we get confirmation, and that's when we see that flow come in. But this range bound market in an up range bound start to the market in an uptrending higher time frame is pretty interesting here. Pretty interesting to see. I'm gonna keep
Yeah, let's look at it on a shorter time frame. See if we can find a
take a look at a
J trade in there.
3 minute here.
Yeah, it was all during the opening. Look at that.
And Rich and Bedside, you got it right. It's the London Open. Once London opened, uh, that's when we saw that volume come in. There's a little this here, Coach Paul.
Hmm. Well, we did tick a new low there.
Yeah, we did. So take the new low, one of the highest volume candles outside of the open. Could you have used this one? You could have, but it didn't make a new low, right? It didn't take out that low. Yeah, this was just to find a place to buy it. I don't see a clean one there, but yeah, what a move! What a move! Uh, I'm scouting market to suggest a J trade to review one of these sessions. I'm gonna get it. Yeah, if you find one, let us know. I think no, there were even some examples in the equities today, right? If you look at the low in the S&P today, on a shorter time frame, there was a decent one, right? Was it the highest volume? No. Are they all going to always be the highest volume? No. But we did get a volume spike that made lows of the day. We closed above it, and same thing. Now it wasn't the highest volume, so then you grade the quality of the setup. Right, today was a pretty range bound day. Now uh, this trade still played out. Right, if you go risk below that low, don't get tagged out on your stop. If you go two ATRs, depending on your entry, you don't get tagged out on that stop either. It's just how much can I actually expect the market to go when it's shown that it's comfortable with these prices. Coach Paul, we had a question from Boomer Bryant. I've got to do a better job of identifying these chop fest days before it's too late. Coaches, what are some ways to identify this pre-market or maybe in the first hour?
One of them ways is what we just said, like we had that example in gold. It was in a range for that session. So flat VWAP. Um, Also, let's see. Well, let's look at the S&P today.
Sorry, I'll just switch over to gold.
All right. So last night in gold, we were in a range. Why? Well, we're that opening range, and I would look at using the 30-minute. It's really important, not the shorter ones, but the 30-minute. So that 30-minute there, we're in a range, and we're in that range for after the first hour. We never left it except for a tick, but we didn't close. uh, uh, I always look at the close. Now, let's look at the S&P or Nasdaq this morning. With just the regular trading hours. It's easier to identify. We did not close outside of that first half an hour. That's one of the ways I'll identify that myself. Um, the first hour, we're still within the first half an hour's range. We never closed, although we ticked above it, we did not close outside of that. That um right there is with a flat VWAP. You have a good signal. Now there's nothing that says that can't change. Remember that because we have to deal with uncertainty all the time. But clues, the first half an hour, set that range. VWAP doesn't leave it. Second, third, fourth, right? We're not getting any momentum. So that's one of the ways I will look at that. Another way, and I don't have it, and I think I might start showing the pivot and the first level of support and resistance. We were in between those all day. Um, so, but one of the first ways is look at that first half an hour. See if we do not close. We can trade, tick, but no close. That's one of the ways I would look at it. How about you, Coach?
I agree with you, and I think part of it is wanting to trade early, and you know, if we don't see, maybe we did get a little bit of urgency in this first 3 minutes in the Nasdaq, but if we don't see urgency early, then I'm just going with okay, maybe this is going to be somewhat of a range bound day, and we did, right? Maybe you took this long off this opening range. What I like to add to what you just said, Coach Paul, is what is on the calendar. Right? It's probably the most fundamental analysis I do. What's on the calendar later in the week? If the markets are going to wait for something and we're not going to see directional price action, when is it likely that we see directional price action? Now, just like anything in trading, nothing is guaranteed. And we've said it before where, like, oh, yeah, we got some data coming out on Thursday, so I'm expecting the markets to be slow. And then the markets do the exact opposite of that, right? And we get a trend day. But I think to a high percentage, when we have some data like that coming out, you can go back and look at, find when the last 10 EPI and CPI prints were and look at the ranges of those daily candles prior to it. And they're probably, to a high probability going to be consolidated days, right? So just setting that expectation going into it. And then when everything else confirms it, when we get a flat view up, and we see no follow through, then yeah, then that's when I say, okay, hey, this is that type of day. The best way is obviously wait until the end of the day, but we can't make money from that, right? So uh, you know, try to put the puzzle pieces together and then see if the market agrees with it as the day goes on. Right. Uh, Anything else you got on gold, Coach Paul?
Um, Nothing else really.
Gold getting closer to that 3,700. We are just over 0.5% off of 3,700 in gold. I mean, with the way this market is moving, we could be there tomorrow. We could be there tonight. Uh, we could be there
Yeah,
tonight.
we could be there in the first hour.
Right. Yeah. That thing is just. And we said once it breaks out of that consolidation, it's not going to be a small move. And I think we're just seeing the start of it right now. Crude oil, Coach Paul. What are we seeing in crude oil?
Well, speaking of ranges, um, look what we did. We got up to the 200-day moving average, which was Friday's high. We're inside of Friday's range, still mother of all range trades. Um, but we haven't closed above the 200, so still a bit of pressure. But other than that, it's been a nice. By the way, it's been a nice intraday trade.
Has been.
So let's see with the half hour. Let's take a look what happened last night.
Someone had asked what the white line indicator was on the bottom of my chart. That's just the ATR, just measuring the average ranges of whatever time frame we're looking at. But here is crude oil on the 30-minute.
So we had a nice, decent rally. Now we had that spike with that wick on the opening. That was a strange looking opening. I don't see too many like that. But once again, we did not close outside of that range until, well, Shanghai opened up.
Yep, right here.
Okay. Where we broke out of that first half an hour range. And we had a nice rally up to the 200-day moving average. And look, so we were up there. Was that just before New York open?
Yes. So yeah, this is 6:30 Central Time.
Yeah. Um, so look at that volume. Now, that is that biggest volume was that sell that brought us notice we never made a new low, but that big candle on that selling um seems ominous. I mean, there's no reactive buying that of any sort except for some short covering for the close. But once again, this is trending lower. Can't take the 200-day moving average, can't take out the half hour 200, I believe. Yeah.
We haven't tested that 200 moving average on the half an hour in about 4 days since we've gotten under it. Uh, like you said, Coach Paul, crude has been an interesting intraday trade. Two-sided trade today from the low to the high. That's $1.40 range, and then almost the exact same on the sell-off. It's not a market that I've traded much recently, but it's still presenting opportunity. The house account took a 5-minute opening range trade today in crude. It triggered a long, got stopped out pretty quick. And I think here's a perfect example, kind of what Boomer Ryan was talking about. How do you know whether it's going to be range bound or not early on? Uh, the angle of VWAP, right? In this case, crude oil looked to the upside. Let's just look at it here. So our opening range trade triggered a long. At this point, my confidence in this trade is uh, pretty low for a breakout, right? If I see this, and I'm not saying this with hindsight, I'm saying this with all of the confluences that I look at in my trading. Volume is ticking lower in this 5 minutes, and we didn't get a price close. So just on a price trade above this range, uh, don't really love it. Now we're seeing VWAP continue to tick lower. Still somewhat range bound, right? Where I may not be short yet, but I'm just patient, right? I may just sit on my hands here until the market starts to choose a direction. But now I start to see candle closes. This is starting to look like a B minus short setup. Now, as that VWAP continues to trend lower, right? This is now no longer saying range day. This is and it took 25 minutes, but price continues to close outside that opening range. VWAP trending lower. Now this is a clearer short opportunity. If I take the trade, where do I limit my risk? Execution still matters, right? Coach Paul, I've been re-listening to Trading in the Zone. Uh, don't be an analyst, right? Be a trader. And
It's,
in seeing all this, I still have to click the button and trust the trade in real time. But when the market is showing signs, it makes it a little easier to trust it. Day there in crude. Anything else you got on crude oil, Coach Paul?
yeah, it seems don't it- it's a right now trade the look for to sell highs and buy lows. It sounds like I'm being snarky. I'm not. Sell rallies is probably and buy lows, but not blindly on not just on price, but on price and volume.
Absolutely. We got some questions here. Questions in the chat. Any other markets we want to talk about? Also, the markets didn't give us a whole lot to talk about today, so this may be a short version of at the buzzer. I'm still looking outside. It's September. If you are in the Northeast or in the Midwest, where Coach Paul is, you know we don't have too many more days like this. But any other markets you want to talk about? Billy says the
You know,
euro, but
it's
let's get to some questions first. We got one
yeah.
from Cody. I struggle with believing I'm capable of stuff. I have three 50K XFA accounts that I'm copy trading and a green wall of $300 days. Never taken a payout and almost don't believe I'm doing this stuff. When do you change your attitude to say, hey, this is my job? Be a little imposter syndrome over there from Cody. Coach Paul, does your generation even believe in imposter syndrome? Like, what is that shit?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Um, I, it's actually it's a good point that you bring up because this is so damn hard. Um, Cody, I see some other statements you made. Trading in the zone is great. Follow the process 20 times is my biggest takeaway. If you fail, you're gambling. You're learning. I don't know how long you've been trading, but you're learning and you're gaining some valuable insights because you're you're questioning it, and all traders question themselves. Now, I don't know how long you've been doing it. 11 months. I'm understand you're just beginning, and you have some great insight for someone who's been doing it 11 months. But yeah, and, we talk imposter syndrome because you choose to be in this to do this. It If you have any kind of ego, which you are human, it can be soul crushing because we've been taught all our lives to be right. And that's here is how do I know I'm wrong? And Tom Hugard in The Best Loser Wins discusses that at length, and that's why that's a great book. It's like, what does it mean? I don't want to be the best loser. Well, who's told you that in your life until you read a comedy? Now, when you do that, it just brings a lot of drama. Like I'm you know I'm only right. You're gonna be you're gonna be fat.
Second, Coach. Hold
So
on one second, Paul. They're saying you got some robot audio.
uh,
Get that fixed in just a second here, chat. Coach Paul's giving out some sauce right here. Go ahead, Coach Paul. Give me another test now. Nope. Hold on one second.
oh,
They can't hear you yet. They should be able to hear you now. Let's try that one more time.
okay. How about now? Is that better? Checking. 1, 2, 3. Checking.
Hear
Okay,
it. Sounds good
we're
to
good.
me. I don't hear it on, but they'll confirm it in just a minute here. All right, Boomer Ryan says good. We're good to go.
I am not an animal. No, but seriously, going back, you have some great insight. I to go through the principles of this. This can, and this is what is really frustrating about trading is learning how to lose. And that's why I brought up best loser wins. When someone says that to you, you look at them when the first time you hear it, like Get out of here. It's, and it crushes your ego, because if front and center you're just trying to be right, when you become a real trader, you want to take small losses and recognize early when you're wrong. So that's why the basis of the best loser wins. For you 11 months, and I don't want to discourage you, but you're just starting. And for you to have that type of attitude, you have a lot of promise. And when you have that insight, so I don't want. I would encourage you to continue. You're, but for everyone, when you've been around this long enough, and you figure that I can't be right, heck, half the time is good.
Yeah.
Um, and reading the market, having a plan, having management, which you seem to have done all of that, you can only get better from there. How about you, Coach Jay?
So Cody said he's been trading for 11 months. Blown some combines early, which is to be expected, right? Everyone has to pay that tuition at some point. But you're seeing some success now. What I will say is that, from a technical perspective, there may not be much more that you need to add to your trading than what you already know, right? You're doing something right now where process wise, as long as that process continues to work, are there going to be tweaks that you need to make to it here and there? Maybe, but you may have enough information now, especially if you've been doing the same thing repeatedly day in and day out for a little while. You may have enough information or all the information that you need. um, I think the next part of it is just continuing to do the things that a long time profitable trader does, right? Managing your risk when things go against you, not over leveraging when you get a little bit overconfident, right? And just continuing to trade the right way. That type of progress in 11 months, it could feel like, oh wow, how is this even real? Right? I'm copy trading multiple accounts, but it is. At some point, it really is just about continuing to execute a process every day. Uh, so, you know, is it your job? It might be your job, right? You might have another income outside of this, but when do you change your attitude to say, "Hey, this is my job"? I think you could do that now, Cody. Uh, it is, but that doesn't mean that you're inexperienced in this job either. Uh, so continue to do what you do.
There was a good comment here. Dina Del Sol. I find that I'm good at losing. I'm terrible at winning. It scares me. Almost an anxiety because you can't win all the time. That's some great. Thank you for sharing that. And that's a really good point, because sometimes if we get a winner on and we cut it off because we're just glad we have some money in there. Now, this is important. I'm glad you brought this, because we can, on the opposite of being the best loser, you also don't want to be the worst winner. And cutting your losses and letting your winners ride is the bottom line. Um, one of the things I don't think is talked enough is cutting off winners. So that's why you hear me for day trading, getting two reward to risk 2 to 1 is I'll take it all the time. But if you know that you've been cutting off your winners, quit watching the screen. Before you enter, you should have predetermined out and an objective. You should have that framed out and let the process work. If you're not there yet, you need to work on that process. But thanks for sharing that, because that's the other side of this coin, is cutting off winners. I don't. It's almost like it's not talked about. Um, and if you're going to take risks, you need to have reward, right? And you have to be rewarded consistently. So I would say to you, if you're having that problem, you really need to journal and help you. Am I following a process? Am I letting the winner earn my risk, or am I just glad that it's green? All right. So if you have good insight there, start journaling it and work on your process. It's really important. If you feel it and you get frustrated, but you don't journal it, you really haven't learned anything. You know, so I know it's one of the things that everybody says they're going to do, but I'd say 80% don't, because it takes some work and it takes some, like, especially with losers. For me, how about film session, coach? At the
Oh yeah.
we- high school, they all laugh at everybody else's, and then they preen when they have a good, when they look at this play, great shot, but no one, as soon as it becomes to that player, that it all turns like, oh, I don't want to. But this is an important thing. Once when you accept that and you can learn from that, your road to success is going to be cut down immensely,
Yep.
because you're not going to take it personally. You're going to do it
There's
like,
data.
okay, it's data. So, how about anything you have to add to that, Coach?
No, I think that was a great point. I think that was a great point. It's funny that you mentioned what Coach Paul was talking about there was when we did film room with our basketball teams, when we coached them, all the kids would want to just look at all the highlights, right? And no one ever wanted to focus on the negative side, but that focusing, and yes, you do have to, point out the highlights as well, right? We don't only want to focus on what we do poorly, because we have to have some type of motivation to continue to do this. But we're going to make progress when we, know, edit what we do wrong, right? And change what we do wrong. Uh, it's uncomfortable. Coach Paul, one of my favorite ones I had with one of the last teams I coached at the high school. I was trying to get team chemistry, trying to get them to build team chemistry. So the entire game, I didn't talk about one play that we ran. I ran the entire game footage, and every time we either scored a basket, somebody got a steal, or a good defensive play, we just focused on what the bench did. And it was like they were like, somebody would make a great play, golf claps, and I'm like, okay, so there's no team chemistry at all. So then I
Yeah,
sat I sat in the office with them and we practiced clapping. Uh,
really.
I'm like, you guys have to learn how to encourage your teammates a little bit
Encourage-
here, right? They were
yeah,
looking at me
bring
like I
some
was crazy,
energy.
but I bet you they weren't quiet the next time.
I've never heard anyone do it. I love that story.
They looked at me like I was nuts, and I'm just like, apparently you guys don't know what encouragement is, so I'm going to show you how it looks. Uh, all right, but let's get back to these markets. We got a request for the euro. Let's take a look at the euro.
And while you're doing that, Coach, Cody asks again, thoughts
Mhm.
on bigger size if your strategy is 70% success and 95% break even? Those numbers aren't, I don't know. But I will tell you this: use use the rule of, of how much you're risking per trade. Now, with that, I highly encourage not losing more than 12% of your total account balance in one day. And that to me is extreme. So let's say this is me, it's $3,000 account. That's about $350, $360. Now, yeah, that's 12 in one day. That's when you have to cut it off. Now, if we break that down and read, I don't know what time frame you're in, but if you're cutting, you're in a three, if you're trading S&P and it's a 4-point ATR on a 5 minute, which is, let's say it's three. Well, with a mini, that's $150. right? On a one lot. It's kind of, you don't have much room. So start sizing it out as a percentage, not as dollars, because then you're going to see how much you can risk you can afford to take, not what you're willing to take. Um, and it started. I use the average true range to help me on that position sizing. All right,
Sure.
euro currency. Anything to add, Coach?
No, nope. I would just be, I always ask the question, why do you want to size up? Account facilitating it, or do you just feel like you can make more money right now? Is the account balance facilitate you taking the same exact trades without feeling pressure of having to be right? Because you don't want to size up. You do want to size up, but you don't want to size up too early, or you start making different decisions because bigger dollar amounts cause emotions. They're going to cause emotions either way, but make sure your account can facilitate those emotions. Uh, the euro.
All right.
What are you seeing here, Coach Paul?
Well, we talked about breaking out on Labor Day. We're still in August's range, but this is the daily. We're over the 200, we're over the 20, and we're over the 50. So it's the trend is solidly up. Let's make a trend line from those highs. Okay, now we've broken the downtrend line. And this to me it's a breakout. Kind of reflecting the gold a little, what gold was a couple weeks ago. This looks like it. I mean, it wants to go. Let's look at the half hour. No, actually, I wanted to bring that up. Today was a great, from last night, it was a great trade. It was, well, I should say it was a very trendy trade. All right.
This is the first half hour last night.
Well, we traded a price. Outside of that, there was no follow through volume. Now let's use the opening of Europe. Interesting.
30 minutes before that, we closed outside of the opening range, Globex opening range. But here's the red box is the euro open.
So in Europe, we bought it. We made new highs from Asian session into New York and finished really within ticks of the high of the day. Also, Friday's highs, I think this has got a good chance, powerful chance of continuation. Let's put the 200 moving average. That's way below, by the way. Yeah. So, yeah, the euro looks like a nice follow through on an uptrend.
Looking pretty bullish there, which means bearish for the dollar, which I think JD said the dollar is down 10% on the year, year to date in the dollar. We got another request for ultra bonds. What a move this has been on over the past 2 days. We know Fed may be cutting rates in about a week's time, a little more than a week's time. Rate cuts mean price goes higher. That's what we're seeing here. Looking at the ultra bonds, looking at the 30, these are all trending markets right now, trending higher. Coach Paul starting to accept price inside of the April sell-off candle that we have. Looking at the 30 here.
Mark that halfway in that candle.
Yep. 118.20 in the 30 year. The request was for the ultra bonds. We'll mark out that price as well. See, longer time frame, right? We're not because if we go down to a 5 year, I think it is 5 years pretty much through that candle already.
Now, that makes sense considering there's talk of cutting rates. It's going to affect the short end more efficiently. So in other words, it's going to rally relatively more than the long end, the 30-year or the ultra bond. Now, I don't want to. I could go on and on, but the discussions that are being made about interest rates. It's not so. Be careful. Once this comes in, you could see a violent reaction. One side going one way, and the other side going the other way. But on a simple basis, and we're definitely having a short covering rally here.
Absolutely. Nice moves today. Nice moves today. Everyone's focused on the equities. We say it all the time. There's 36 different markets we could trade with Topstep accounts. If you were looking for a trending market, they've been here today. A pretty nice move. If you had to look at a pit open for the Treasury products, Coach Paul, what time frame are you looking at? What time of day are you looking at?
7 o'clock. 7 o'clock.
7.
7:30 on a half hour. The
Here's that
official
7
time
o'clock
was
candle.
the 7 o'clock.
Nice move there.
And you can see the volume went from
Yep.
actually use it. Yeah, there it is. Then the volume came in and said, "Oh, it's being bought
Um, I don't know how many traders we
early."
have trading the Treasury products, but want a place to limit risk. Of course, with anything, if you trade a million contracts, it's going to be hard to limit risk in a small account. But looking at that 5 year could be pretty interesting. Just looking at the 30 as well. How many traders here do we have that trade either any of the Treasury products? 30-year bonds, the notes, all equities traders here. Anything else you want to cover, Coach Paul, while we're here?
Oh, Bitcoin.
Look at the daily.
Oh, he kept that downtrend. So we're still above that. Um, the the downtrend has been broken.
I think you lost your audio there, Coach Paul. I can't hear you. You lost your audio for a second there, Paul. Want to take a look. But what he was saying was the downtrend broken in Bitcoin. Do we see it continue to rally coming off of these lows? Looking at it daily, we are still above the 200 moving average. The 20 crossed below the 50, which we saw the equities do. And we haven't seen that in Bitcoin in a little while, right? That 20 crossing below the 50. The last time they crossed was February, where we got that sell off. So is that what we're seeing here? Maybe it's not exactly the same, but looks a little bit similar. But you will see if we continue to hold above this trend line, then all good. But this 20 moving average here on the daily is going to be an interesting spot to look. Give an audio test real quick, Coach Paul, and see if we got you.
Check.
Yep, I got you now.
All right. I took off my headset.
Got you now, Coach Paul.
All right. But looks like the biggest opportunity looks like is that euro currency. It kind of looks like the bonds and the gold, actually.
Yeah. Keep an eye on the euro through the rest of the week and next week, I would say, as we get this inflation data to come out. I think we got to all the questions. One more question from Ab. How was I able to stop at $113? I have for sure tried to secure that profitable day, at 150? Ab, that's a great question. I was actually up $190 on this account and then took another trade and went down. And I said, okay, I'm trying to make something out of nothing here. So I'm just going to go outside. I didn't even hit the lock button, none of that. I just said, stop trying to force shit and went outside. And it was as simple as that. I really had to ask myself, am I trying to make money or am I trying to take a good trade setup? And it was trying to make money. So I walked away. But I'm okay. That extra $37, could I have taken a trade that was a good setup? I could have, but I already kind of saw what mindset I was in. So I said, you know what, $113 when I'm eligible to take a payout from this account is still going to add to that balance, right? So don't force trades in bad environments, and that was it.
Good idea.
All right.
Because because we can easily get caught in that situation. Like you, I'm glad what you said, Coach. I'm just trying to make money.
Yep.
Now that when you first hear that, you might not understand it, but that means you're forcing market action. And the market's neutral; it doesn't really care. It's not there. So when you're trying to force what you want into a market that doesn't care, you're going on tilt. So good catch, Coach.
Thank you. As well. Yeah, Brady, it was a good workout today. Got a chest day in, then got on the track. I haven't ran on the track in a long time. Believe it or not, Coach Jay used to actually be kind of fast. I timed some 100-meter sprints today, and I got some work to do. I have some work to do, but yeah, we'll be back in tip-top shape in no time. Coach Paul, any final words you have before we go for the day? Send our traders off into the.
Just remember tomorrow, we just talked about trying to force issues. Trade a setup. Don't try and overdo it. I think there's a high probability that we could have the same type of day tomorrow if no other news comes out. Preserve your capital.
Go.
That's it.
Preserve your capital, manage risk, know when your job is done for the day. That might not mean that money that you were looking. It means you took good trade setups, you managed your risk, and left you some room in your account to trade tomorrow. We got Coach Hoop coming up with a class in Discord in about 15 minutes, and we got Coach Ray and Coach Vince, 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Central Time, and then, of course, Dakota with Slow Markets at 7:30. I will be joining Dakota for Slow Markets tonight. And then we got Aaron with the London Open, D with the Euro Trade, 1:30 a.m. and 3:30 times. And then we'll be back for the opening call tomorrow morning. We'll see everyone then. Until then, trade well, manage your risk. Have a good night. Bye.
Bye.